Hello and welcome. I'm Patrick Curtis, Chief Monkey of Wall Street Oasis, and this is Monkey to Millions, a show where you get a front row seat as I mentor young students and professionals to try and help them break into their dream jobs. In the first cohort, you'll meet 4 students, all preparing for intense job interviews while trying to also balance a personal life and schoolwork. The goal of this show is to shine a light on the struggles of trying to break into competitive positions with a non-traditional background and to give you a roadmap for your own success. My hope is that as you get to know these 4 impressive students, you are inspired to dream big. Remember, these are real people and this is their true story. Let's get to it. After some disappointing news from his latest round of interviews, we take a bit of time to run through some of Andrew's fit questions. Listen to my advice on how to make some slight modifications to come across as more genuine. I think it's an important lesson for a lot of interviewees that get into the mindset of simply prepping and rehearsing their answers to themselves. With another final round interview coming up in 1 week's time, this time is critical to polish any rough edges. Not all is lost, but options are running out as Andrew is trying to stay afloat, working 70-hour weeks and managing the recruiting process. But first, take a listen from Andrew himself from the weeks leading up to this session.
Just like a recap of the last week. Last Wednesday, I had a super day for RBC Global Markets program. Overall, it was a little bit choppy. I really wasn't that polished. Like I probably should have came in a lot stronger, but yeah, so I wasn't really too surprised when I got rejected for that position. So not really too able to leverage that for anything else. So over the weekend, I pretty much prepped all the technical and fit answers for my investment banking interview tomorrow and Thursday. So tomorrow is with CIBC. I think that I'll come in very strong just after putting in so much work the past few days and just looking at some of the deals that the firm has worked on. I think I can come off as a really strong candidate, especially being in the non-target bucket. I think I can really shine. And then along with Thursday, just with it being so far along in the cycle, I think just the fact that it's so late and they're actually interviewing me is a good sign. So looking forward to that. Kind of besides that, I feel a little bit like destroyed today. My brain hurts a lot. I got in the office at like 7:30, just left at like 8:30, 8:45. And then on top of that, just I don't know, just kind of the buildup of everything's just hit me right now. So just probably go to sleep and just do my best in the interview tomorrow. It's only a phone interview, so shouldn't be too tough. I have notes in front of me just in case, just for some extra numbers. I have all my basic guideline or basic like fair game technicals ready. I studied a few in depth. I've done a lot of my fit. I have that down pretty well, especially from some friends who've broken into the industry. Then kind of besides that, I have a pitch ready, and I think it should be good. And then over the weekend, I also worked on a case competition that was a M&A case, so it actually would serve well as a short if I'm asked for that. So it's a little recap. I don't really have any other interviews on the go, and kind of right now I'm feeling a little just run down, so I'm not really like actively applying. I'm just gonna see where these next few go, and then kind of gather myself up over the weekend to see what the results are. And if they're negative, then I guess back to the drawing board. But if they're positive, even better. Just hit the ground harder and try to land something for summer. Just a light recap of the last week. Been pretty busy the last few days. Just with the one of the deals that I've been on, it's the privatization of a U.S. REIT. So it's been pretty busy just these last few days, just in terms of literally just formatting PowerPoints. So it's pretty exciting. Yeah, but kind of besides that, on the job front, found one spot in Toronto for the winter. It's another real estate job that I just applied for. It was really late posting in that sense, and it's with another pension fund, so it's very similar. Just started networking with a few people there. Kind of besides that, the outcomes of my last 2 interviews, I didn't hear anything back from CIBC, but that one was probably my weaker interview. I didn't really have a good connection with the guys calling, so Didn't expect too much out of that. With Desjardins, went really, really well. They're really heavy with real estate deal flow, so they loved kind of my background. Kind of started chatting about like Premier League soccer after like all the technicals were over, so it's fun in that sense. I actually had a good connection with the guys, so ended up getting a super day next week. And it's actually the guy who's going to be one of the guys that'll interview me was an alum from my school that I was trying to connect with throughout the summer, but he was just busy up till then, so tried to get a coffee this week, but he said it would just interfere with the process. So kind of expecting a lot out of this, but if not, just my or boots on the ground the next few weeks, just finding out the outcome basically, and then just networking harder. And if not, I've seen a few recruiters that have told me they'll repost again for a few cap markets jobs in January ish. So nothing too bad. I'll shoot you a Skype message just to let you know about the super day. Kind of over the last couple weeks. So I had Desjardins last Thursday. So it wasn't a tough modeling test by any means, and they've taken like a week to get back to me kind of at every point so far. So I'm not too worried. And plus, it was with like the only alum from my school to ever get there. Was the interview after, so didn't feel too worried about it, and I've spoken with them before, so kind of on that, like on the actual test, it was like a levered free cash flow model, and then it's like a transaction multiple for basically two other scenarios. So it's pretty easy. Then just basic questions, just like run me through your resume, like why IB, like what do you expect to be doing, just typical stuff, and then like what do you do outside of the office. So pretty standard, just fake questions. I think it went pretty well. Kind of, and besides that, I had first round Brookfield, New York last Monday, and I honestly didn't really take it too seriously because it's like a random resume drop that I did back in like August, and I thought nothing of it. So it was just a really casual call, and I didn't think it went well at all. But I got a second round for that, so that'll be coming up next week. And it's interesting because a girl from the team that I'm on now ended up going to Brookfield kind of right after her term here. And I think she knows like a lot of the people on the team. So I've spoken with her a couple times, and I'm supposed to speak with another few analysts that just have like mutual connections kind of over the next week. That'll be like a Skype second round next Wednesday. So we'll see how that goes.
Nice. So you're I'm hearing an echo. Maybe it's my camera. So you're basically you have the Desjardins. It's called Desjardins.
Yeah.
And that's basically done, right? That was the final round.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was the final round. If not, I think they'd mentioned something that if they might try to get me in front of an MD, just because it's such a small shop. But I think they'd fly me into Toronto, and that would kind of be like the tiebreaker if it happens, if it comes to that.
Do you feel like you're on hold there, or do you feel like you're like?
I don't know. It's a tough question. Like I'm not really too sure where I stand on that one.
It's tough. Small place, it may not be as structured. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it may not be as fast to turn around, so you don't really know.
Yeah.
But it sounds like you're still getting looks, you're still getting opportunities, which is good.
Yeah. No, it's pretty positive overall.
It's doing its job.
Yeah. I think especially just having the name brand on it for like PSP investments, it's pretty like well regarded in like most industries, like because Brookfield's a Canadian company too.
Yeah.
So it bodes well.
So tell me a little bit about where else do you have any time to do the other stuff like the interview,
like all the LinkedIn messaging?
Having any time to do that or not much? More.
I'm still doing it kind of like on the side a bit. Like I've been jammed up a little bit with work, but I've tried to contact like more alum in the industry that I've found like they're kind of like indirect alum because they don't like list that they're from my school on their LinkedIn, which I mean makes sense if you're going for prestige. So I've made contact with a few of those guys, and
how did you know
kind of doing what I've been doing?
if they didn't list?
Just from reaching out to other alum. That's basically it.
Oh, that's
And
funny.
then just them telling me about these guys that they'd done like the investment fund with. So makes sense.
So do you feel like it would be helpful if we did? I mean, it sounds like so you're doing your internship. What's the plan if like you don't get an? So the plan right now is okay. We're in November, right? So the plan is to go back to school in when? January?
January, yeah.
Regardless of what happens, unless you get something that's like they want you to start in January.
Yeah, and kind of what I'm going for now, like I'd applied to one other position, one or two other positions in the winter. Like one's like alternative solutions for like CIBC capital markets. So like they do like FX products and stuff like that. The other was another like real estate team with a different pension fund. So it'd be literally doing the same job that I'm at now, but they would just have better um, like return prospects in that sense. So pretty
Oh,
broad.
better return prospects, you said?
Yeah,
Full time.
like yeah, for full time. So like where I am now, like it's you have to have another offer like from a different firm before they can offer you like another internship or offer you full time.
That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
So you're at this point, the plan is kind of you're still mostly interviewing for summer 2020.
Yeah, exactly.
And so what's the plan, I guess, if let's say all those fall through? Let's say Desjardins, Brookfield, all that.
Yeah, honestly, just might take like a like a 1 or 2 week break, kind of just get everything out of my head and try to start fresh. From who I've talked to. So when I did my RBC Super Day, like I got an email a few days after. They're like, "Oh, well, we just wanted to thank you for coming in. Like, sadly, like we didn't pick you, but kind of on that, we do post again for other summer capital markets jobs coming in like late December, early January. So the guy said basically just to reach out to him regarding the position, and he'd try to like escalate things just because I made it so far with this one or interview. So
Do you feel like there's anything that could have helped changed it? I feel like I failed to grill you enough.
honestly, like
Went through a crazy time there a couple weeks ago.
yeah, it was like 7 interviews in 1 week or something like that. So
I
it
was
was
looking at one of the updates and just being like, "Oh man, I know where he's at right now." You're just like getting crushed.
well, it was so tough too because I don't know if it's because every time I've done recruiting before, I've been in school or been on like a summer school semester. So I had like the challenge of taking on work while recruiting for another job, and it's made the process a lot tougher. So like I can't commit fully to both. I feel, and I kind of feel like I've been like half-assing it on like both parts because I'm trying to juggle it, and it's just not working out. And
Yeah, they're
I've
both
come to that realization.
both full-time jobs.
Yeah,
The reality, you just got to kind of do the best you can
yeah,
to make sure you're leaving it your job, setting up side on time on the side so that you don't bomb all your interviews.
yeah, exactly.
That's tough, man. Yeah. So, I mean, look, it's something where you're just going to get better too, the more you practice. And that hell week that you went through, you probably got a little bit better at interviewing after all that.
Yeah, like I don't see it as negative. Just learning experience at this point. I mean, especially coming from a background where I'd only done like two capital markets interviews before I even started this like interview season. Like I feel like I progressed pretty well.
Yeah. And then in terms of how many hours you're working right now, what is it, 50-ish?
I'd say like 60 on the low end, going to like 70 or 75 tops.
Yeah, they're working
So
guys pretty good.
yeah, like some of the private equity interns are in from like 8 to like 10 or 11:30 at night. So I've got a little better than them. But yeah,
Wow, this it doesn't change. So okay, so
no,
you're kind of surviving. You have a couple things still cooking right now. RBC was a no. but still reach back out because you made it so far. Potentially that still might be open. Man, I'd like to get you in a few more processes though, you know what I mean? Because like it's so crunch time right now.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Have you done anything with your so much time, free time you have? Have you done any like outreach to firms in New York at all?
Honestly, like nothing besides Brookfield. Like I'm starting to look now. Like I've got all my like LinkedIn alerts set up
Yep.
for summer intern positions. I think I've seen a few come up, and like I'm not gonna like shy away from it. Like I've talked to one guy who basically said, put like a fake address, even if it means you have to take like a red eye flight out to take this interview. So I'll definitely like apply to them as I see them. I think I missed out on like maybe the boutique investment banks, but I think there's still going to be jobs coming out. I'm honestly not too worried
They're
at
not
this
all
point.
gone, but like, yeah, it's going to be pretty small firms.
Yeah,
It could be something, if it's an investment bank and you get some deal, it's still an internship, right? So it's just supposed to be an internship before your senior year. So even if they're like, hey, we don't have any full-time spots, you're like, hey, that's cool. Don't worry about it. You don't have to pay me much. Just let me get that experience. I think that's the key, is just getting something on your resume for that summer.
Yeah, absolutely. And kind of on that too, like I think if I practice enough for like my Brookfield interviews too, I can really shine. Like especially just knowing that the other intern from my group who went there did the same exact thing as me, and now kind of knowing that she got a full time offer at Brookfield, and knowing that she came from PSB, I think they're gonna expect a little bit more from me and kind of put me in like a higher bracket. You know what I mean?
Like in terms of like higher esteem because she got a full-time offer.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, hopefully. But yeah, I
yeah,
mean, so tell me a little bit more about that firm and when that's coming up.
yeah. So with Brookfield, New York, that's next Wednesday. I think I'm more on like the real estate heavy side of things, so
Are you
not
gonna
too surprised with that.
are you gonna fly
Um,
down?
Sorry, am I flying down? No. So it's like a Skype interview for second round, and I think from what I heard from the other intern who went there, it's all over phone. So it's
You get a better connection for that interview.
oh yeah,
Because
definitely it's rough.
spotty. It's spotty.
It's rough. I think it's I think it's the building Wi-Fi because I've tried to do like Facebook calls here too, and it's just it's not good.
Yeah. So like I think if you were to like you should try to connect your laptop directly to like an Ethernet.
hmm
Do you have that at home? Like
I've just got better Wi-Fi overall at home, so I may
yeah.
have to do it there. It's at like 9:30 in the morning too, so it's not like midday by any means. So
So you think you can stay home and do that and then go to work?
I could probably swing that. Yeah.
I would definitely do that.
Yeah.
Because that could be that could just make the difference, It's just
Yeah.
the connection.
Absolutely.
Even though it has nothing to do with you, it can be frustrating for the other person. They rely on
Yeah.
you. And then just go complain to your bosses there about. Just
I'm
kidding.
trying to interview somewhere else. Come on, guys.
Yeah, come on, guys. Can you improve the Wi-Fi so I can go get a job somewhere? You told me you're not going to give me a full-time offer unless I get an offer somewhere else. So.
Pressure's on you. Come on, guys.
So okay. So that is sorry. When is that? That's next week.
Next Wednesday. Yeah.
Next Wednesday. Okay. And that is real estate focused.
Yeah, and from what I heard with the other intern too, it's like the technicals aren't exact. Like real estate technicals aren't like heavy. They're not as heavy as IB. Like
Mm-hmm.
most of it like flows pretty well, and it's pretty like self-explanatory from like what do the terms mean and like where our market's going. Like I'm pretty sure I know where most markets are going, and kind of where these groups cover most of their properties are kind of where I'm covering most of the properties for PSP now. So it all bodes pretty well.
But do you feel like Where do you feel like you might need to prep before that? Like what's your weakest part? Do you feel like, do you have a specific case? Like were you able to talk to your analyst at PSB that to like go through something in detail? So you have something you can talk through?
No. So that never worked out.
Okay.
But kind of on that, I do have other analysts that I can talk to, and I've done like a little bit of like modeling myself up to this point. So I would be comfortable like talking through it, and kind of what I've heard on that is that like a lot of the American schools don't have like as heavy real estate programs where they're like having their interns model.
Mhm.
So I don't know if just having this experience and be able to
Even
speak
just
to it
being
in
able,
the interview is huge.
not just the numbers, but just having being able to speak about a specific deal in detail
Yeah. Yeah.
and just knowing the numbers around that and why you thought it was a good deal or wasn't a good deal.
Mm-hmm.
Because it is a buy side firm, right? Or is it
Yeah.
so
That's
it's
what I said.
so yeah, just being able to speak around the specifics of the deal,
Mm-hmm.
then the broad strokes of why that specific market was interesting and
Yeah,
well,
definitely.
just the dynamics of the deal, I think would be really helpful to make sure you sound intelligent and you sound polished for the job. I think the other thing it would be just to know a lot about that firm specifically and the deals they've
Yeah.
done,
Okay.
so that you can kind of even integrate that into your answer of what interests you about them specifically, and
Mm-hmm.
definitely talk about the girl that made it from your spot. And have you been able to talk with her?
Yeah, so I spoke with her like earlier this week, and I'm
That's
speaking with another analyst too in the next few days.
Yeah, so you spoke to her. I would say, she's come from this, and it sounds like she's been really successful. And I also spoke with XYZ, John Smith, the fund,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
I really liked what he had to say about this. And so when you're speaking to them, really kind of ask questions about like, what's the culture like? What's it, do you feel like you're learning a lot? And so that when they say yes and all the stuff, you can kind of reiterate that in the interviews.
yeah. Like just kind of steal their answers for like why this firm.
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Because
yeah.
you've done your research, you're very impressed with the deals they've done and their track record, and specifically these deals seem really interesting. And just to show
Mm-hmm.
them, not like don't make it so egregious where it's like you're kissing ass, but just enough where they like actually know that you've done your homework and you're not just kind of going in there and winging it and thinking you're going to get the job because that girl was there. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like the key is you don't want to come across as arrogant. You want to come across as super humble, super hungry, and just trying to just get your foot in the door, get your chance.
Yeah,
I think if,
definitely.
I think if you do that, you'll be in a really good spot for them. So, but
Yeah.
nothing else right now. You're just dropping resumes left and right, or how many jobs do you think you're applying to per week right now? One?
I think this weekend alone, I think I did like three or four. Like as they come out more and more, I think I'll probably start dropping. I don't know as many as I can for like however much effort I can put into like a cover letter with saying I've spoken with all these people in it.
Yeah.
Just going from there.
Yeah, because your resume is pretty strong. I think you'll get looks. You just want to make sure that the wave doesn't pass you by too far, you know?
Yeah, yeah, definitely have people like look out for me too if they see a job that they think I'd like
Be
do
good.
well in or
Yeah.
anything, they'll forward that to me. So I've got people looking out for me on that end, and I'm checking like I don't even check like my career site anymore. So I because they post like some terrible jobs like it's
That's what
like
happens.
Indeed.com, like basically like a pool like company accountant or something like that.
Well, that's what happens when you're going to non-target, man.
No, I got the University of Western Ontario, so like the Ivy School of Business. I got one of my friends there to give me his Career Center login, so I've been using that, and that's actually how I got the Desjardins one.
Amazing.
Yeah, yeah,
That's great. That's great. Yeah, any way you can get yourself into that pool is smart. So, how can I help you, dude? What's most useful? I would put my camera on. Sorry, I'm just trying to keep the connection from splitting.
yeah. That's fine. That's fine. I don't know. Like overall, do you think I have like a hard time just kind of telling my like fit story? So I don't know if you remember like a few calls ago, and we were just kind of going through that. I don't know if that's my hardest part of the interview.
The fit, you feel like you're a little bit, maybe it's a little bit too winding. It's not direct enough or concise.
Uh, I don't know, kind of maybe just like the responses to like, oh, like tell me like leadership or like challenges, like
Oh
stuff
yeah,
like that. 'Cause
I know we talked about that. Yeah, did you end up kind of getting setting aside specific stories and examples for
Mhm.
each of those so that you can pull?
Yeah, like I have, and like the thing is, I actually haven't been asked like those questions since that like 1 week. And like kind of after that 1 week, I was like, okay, well, I totally just bombed these, so I'm just gonna start writing these up. So I did that, and I've kind of got a better idea of like how to formulate things. So
Do you want to practice?
uh yeah, sure. What is it? The leadership one or the challenge one? But
So we could do tell me about a time when, let me see. Tell me about a time when you were in a group and there was some conflict
whenever I was in a group and there was some conflict.
there, or that you disagreed with somebody. How did you deal with that?
Okay, yeah. So kind of just recently, my school started the CFA Research Challenge, and our group was pretty diverse. A few of the students like haven't had like real internship experience, and they've kind of just based all their knowledge off of like what Bloomberg tells them. So on that, like we had an incident come up when we were trying to just go through like the best way to put together a report for the company. So like our basically our equity research report. And kind of on that, they were disagreeing on like what to put for the future of the company. They'd really just referred to what Bloomberg had given them, and I'd me and my other friend who had this internship experience, we actually did like a deep dive through all these company financials, their MD&A, and actually discovered it was pretty much the complete opposite of what the student thought. And from there, we pretty much blatantly showed them, and from then on, like they were on board, and we went pretty much as a group from there.
So you're saying you disagreed in the projections,
Yeah,
and so what were they over projecting or under projecting according to your deep dive?
they'd over projected kind of just based on like the outlook of the company.
And so how did you approach them when you thought that they were wrong?
It was kind of just like, so we had three people that were on my side, and there's like the one guy was on his side, and from there we'd basically just like kind of summarize what was in the financial statements and the documents, and kind of outlined that, summarized it, and showed them, and they gave it a read over, and from there they were on board.
Great, thanks for that example. I'm just taking some notes. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it after.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about tell me about the time when you kind of had to step up and take a leadership role.
Definitely, yeah. So it was actually during my second summer of working at a steel warehouse, and a lot of the senior employees were getting injured, and they actually required surgeries that would put them out of work for like 4 to 6 months. So on that, the plant foreman thought that I would be a good fit for the leadership role, just given my efficiencies and kind of ability to communicate with kind of the senior people on the team. Seeing that I was the youngest, it was definitely unorthodox, and a lot of the senior members didn't really want me to take this leadership position because I was so young, but kind of just through proving that I could do like the grunt work, and on top of that, showing that I could just lead them through loading a bunch of different trucks at night and making sure we got out of the plant when our shift was supposed to end, and even a little bit earlier. They came to respect me, and I took hold of that position.
Okay, and then tell me a little bit more about how they didn't want you to be a leader. How did you, when they were told that you were going to be in that position, what did they say to you?
It wasn't really like verbal. It was kind of more of just them like not doing as much work and kind of pointing me to do a lot of the heavier work and pick up the slack to see if I could actually do the physical labor on top of doing
How did you
the.
feel?
I honestly wasn't. I wasn't mad about it by any means. Like I was kind of expecting it, kind of just seeing that I was the youngest there. They thought that I'd kind of have the most energy, and it proved to be true, and it proved that I could lead on top of that and get the like organizational stuff done on top of the physical work.
Why do you think or whoever put you in charge there, why do you think he chose you? Why not, given that you're so young, why put you in a leadership? Why not just put you in a grunt role?
Well, I'd actually done the grunt role for a whole year, and he kind of watched me progress, and I'd actually taken on a few I gained like a few licenses, so like fall arrest, like truck driving, so like the big like 10-ton trucks. And on top of that, I did like a lot of the forklift training. So I did all like the training that everyone else had, and then kind of the foreman ability to see me perform once I had that compared to the other more senior employees, he thought that I'd perform better.
How are they
So
measured?
that's why it was kind of just based on like how quickly the work would be done and how safely it would be done. So some of the other older workers would have like less safe ways of doing things. And I followed the senior workers who'd gotten injured but had done things safely in the past, and I watched the way they'd done things, and that's how I performed the job.
Okay. Then tell me a little bit about just why you want to be in this industry.
Awesome. Yeah. So kind of all my life, I've really admired high performing industries. Kind of starting at a young age, I'd really taken to Premier League soccer. I realized these athletes devoted their entire lives to the sport that they were in, and they really just gave it their all. They'd go to training for like numerous hours each week, and it was really their life. And then kind of growing up, I shied away from that, and I started looking towards career paths that emulated that, kind of just starting with like doctors, lawyers, and then I'd seen it a little bit in accountants. But then once I started connecting with a few people, I saw that more in like bankers and kind of for this like real estate financiers. And I'd see that they'd really had a lot of similar characteristics, and I thought that it would be a really good fit for me. Like I don't want to come across as naive. I know that this industry is going to take a lot of my time, and there's going to be times where I feel like I'm getting crushed, but at the same time I want that challenge and I want to dedicate my life to this industry.
Okay, great. Sorry, I'm just taking some notes because I think there's some good stuff we can review here. Okay, and then let's talk a little bit about I'm going to give you one more kind of
another one, yeah.
Review, just one more, this little one. Tell me about a time when you kind of tell me about a time when you disagreed with your boss.
Oof. That's a tough one. Like I don't know if I've even disagreed with a boss up to now. Like
did you ever think your boss did something stupid, and like how did you approach them about it? Like, come on, like either your analyst as you're an intern, or like they made a mistake, or they're doing things wrong. Did you just keep your mouth shut, or did you speak up?
I'm trying to still think of the time. I'm actually having a tough time with that.
Okay. So then, tell me about a time when you had to. That's too easy. Tell me about I'm trying to think of the hard ones. Tell me about like something that you feel like you need a lot of work on still. Like where are you weakest? Like where, if we hire you, what are we gonna need to train you on the most?
It's another good one. That is tough.
Dude,
especially
that's
thinking
just
on the spot.
Question.
Just another weakness question. So like
weakness question. So just give me the weakness answer. It's I just phrase it differently.
Okay, so like Can you say, I could say like, oh, um, I'd really like to see improvement on my public speaking abilities. Kind of, is that even like applicable to some of these if it's framed like that?
Like, where are we gonna have to train you? Yeah, you can say like client facing, I want to improve the way I interact with clients. I think, I'm learning
Okay.
the analytical side, the technical side. I still think I can improve in modeling. But I feel like since I'm so junior and so I'm so young, I feel like one of the more natural areas that there's still a lot of room for improvement is just public speaking and interaction with clients. I think that comes with
Okay.
confidence and stuff like that. So I think it's something I continue trying to improve, and I'm getting more
Yeah.
confident around that. So I think that's a great, public speaking is a great one because a lot of people have that as a fear, and that like
Mhm.
client interaction and interviews is super nerve wracking, man. So like,
Yeah, I didn't know how to frame it like you just framed it. That was really good.
yeah. So like, just think the public speaking is good, but always tie it back to the job. So where is speaking important in the job? Like presenting in front of clients or presenting to even just your own internally, like your bosses,
Hmm.
something you feel like you need to improve, and that's fine. I think that's very normal for interns and for kids in college. Let's go
Hmm.
back to the other ones, okay?
Yep.
Um, the first one, it was my question about like when you said the guy that was wrong, or that there was a guy who was just pulling off a Bloomberg, the projections, and you said something along the lines of like, we did a detailed financial dive and da da da, and then we just showed him. That question is really trying to get around how you deal with conflict. It's not about showing that you had the right answer.
Okay.
So it's really about it's not about showing that you had it right and you had the skills because you went to an internship and you and your guy were smart. It was more about how you approached the other guy and how you
Hmm.
feel like crap about being wrong.
Okay.
So it's like more of a teamwork answer. So you can be like, I think it is delicate, but what we tried to do is bring him on alongside us, the group that had a different opinion, and showed him some of the more detailed analyses that we had put together to show that we thought the projections were overstated on some of the public sources.
Okay.
And he luckily he came around after that, even though there was, I think it was more just a question of he didn't think to do that because he didn't have that experience, but it was, he did initially disagree because he was showing us like these other sources.
Yeah.
So there's a slight nuance there. So like it felt a little bit when you were telling me about it, like it was like this poor guy. Like I started feeling bad for
Hmm.
the poor guy who was wrong and like being a little naive. And you don't want that. Like you want to be more like
We try to get him on board like as quickly as possible.
yeah, or
Just
like we just want to get him on board as gently as possible, not even as quickly, as gently,
hmm.
not hurt his feelings, and just showing that you're
Yeah.
cognizant of that and other people's feelings and have that empathy, I think is a
Okay.
really important, mature thing to demonstrate. So I really, really loved your examples and your specifics about the forklift and stuff on the site. No, that's key, man. Just like the specifics, don't speak less in platitudes and more in specifics,
Yeah.
and you'll be in better shape. So meaning don't give me these broad like I did better, like I did this, and like tell me how specifically. How do
Mhm.
they? That's why I was trying to drill you a little bit on like, well, how do they measure performance? And you said,
Yeah.
well, safety and this. What was it like? Were there any specific metrics? Well, not really, but there were people observing us on the floor, taking notes or whatever it was. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but I really loved your answer there. And the specifics were great, and it made it more tangible. It's like
Yeah.
I
Exactly.
could picture it. You know what I mean? I could picture you on the floor. And and I love the fact that they didn't tell you to your face that they didn't want you there, but you still read the body language. You read well, maybe they did tell you to F off, and I think you had told me in the past. But whatever. Point is, like, your answer was good because it showed like you were picking up on nonverbal cues.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
other answer was really interesting. For a second, I was worried. You started talking about Premier League soccer, and then you kind of. But I liked how you tied it into like the fact that you were. It was a little bit of a long way to get to the doctor, lawyer, banker thing, but I liked the
Yeah.
doctor, lawyer, banker thing, accounting, banking, because you kind of were saying you respected that they were so dedicated at their profession. They put in so many hours, and you wanted to
Yeah.
be. One thing though, felt a little flat when you say I want to dedicate my life to this industry. It's a little heavy. when you
Yeah.
say that, it's like, wow, like, are you so sure that you want to dedicate your life to this industry? I think it would be better and more genuine.
Hmm.
If you say something along the lines of, I really want to be in a place where I can just learn as much as I can from really bright people.
Yeah.
And so I feel like this being at this company or being in this industry specifically is gonna afford me that opportunity. And so for me, where I'm gonna be in 5 to 10 years is I'd be lying if I said I know exactly, but I know that this is gonna set me up well in terms of just learning a lot my first few years
Hmm.
out of school. And I think it's an honest answer. Um, and I think it's going to get you further than just saying, I'm ready to dedicate my life like a Premier League
Yeah.
soccer player. I liked the Premier League soccer framing of it. Just get to it fast, the doctor lawyer thing faster, and then
Yeah.
um, I think the fit of this industry. I think how you transition to how this is really. You said real estate finance and whatever banking. I think that was good. Um, I think just the way you ended it could be a little bit less heavy. Like boom, like
Yeah.
I am going to dedicate my life to that. Because I think
Yeah. I totally get
the
it.
important thing is like you don't want. Look, everyone knows there's a little bit of sugarcoating and all this stuff, and you're trying to say what they want to hear. But the more you can be genuine and just real with them about what
Hmm.
you don't know as much as what you do know, the more they're gonna just like you as a person. And it's to be like, this kid is grounded. Like you're just a good grounded, good kid. That's a hardworking kid, and I know you are. And so you want to just get that across, and you don't want to be so sound too rehearsed.
Yeah.
Even though you're going to be rehearsed, you're going to be rehearsed in the way that's a genuine rehearsed, meaning like the answers you're going to give are going to be more real.
Yeah.
And I think people will like that because they're like, okay, this kid's he's kind of sugarcoating, bullshitting, but like it's not like and my whole life like that took it like a little bit too much. There was a little too much sugar on the cupcake.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But overall,
Yeah.
I thought it was strong, man. I think you could improve, but I think overall it was good. There were some really good highlights in there. Um, but yeah, just
Awesome.
the delivery was good. You weren't like umming and any of that stuff. I think you've clearly improved since I think we tried this the first time and you wouldn't even do it.
Yeah.
So I'm proud of you for actually doing it. But yeah, I think a lot of that's good, man. I think it's just more about making that connection. Does that make sense? Are those fair criticisms or
Yeah. No, that
critiques?
makes a lot of sense. It's good to get your take on it, especially the like the leadership one too, with like getting into the details versus like the broad strokes that you were saying.
Yeah, I think anytime you can pull in a specific detailed example, like give a little like visual or whatever, it just
Yeah.
it makes it all of a sudden they're going to pay attention versus if you're like, and I'm a leader and they all didn't like me because of this and that. Use my charm to turn them around. Then everyone's gonna be like rolling their eyes and be like, oh, yawn. Whereas if you're like, well, I did this and they didn't want me on the forklift, but then I like, you know, this guy threw out his back and they slipped a disc and did it, like giving those specifics, everyone's like, oh my gosh. Like this is like crazy like factory work, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Absolutely.
so I think it really just it's about becoming a good storyteller.
Yeah.
It really is. Like the people who kind of can hold an audience and hold a room, that skill of going into an interview and being able to like communicate your story in such a way that's vivid, that gets across the point that you really um, do want this job and you're really hungry for it, but not in
Yeah.
a way of like that's not genuine. Like it's just a genuine desire to learn, to be around people that are super smart, and to be honest, you don't know what you don't know, and be
Yeah.
honest about that. And like almost like in a technical, you get a technical, you have no idea. Like, I really have no clue. Like even saying that can almost elevate you in their eyes versus trying to go like weasel like BS through it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I actually have no clue what that is, but is that this? And they're like, yes. And you're like, okay, well then I would approach it by starting here, but then I'm kind of lost. I'm not sure what to do, where I'd go next. Uh,
Hmm.
Framing it like that becomes a much more genuine, likable thing versus a kid who doesn't kind of knows what it is and just starts kind of just trying to skirt their way through. Does that make sense? Because
Yeah.
there's going to be somebody who knows it perfectly up and down and aces it. But if they don't like him or her as much as they like you, it doesn't
Yeah.
really matter.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it's a hard thing to get across because like you read all the interview courses and like there's all the sample answers. And so you prepare your sample answers and you go in and you forget that like it's just a human being across from you. Like
Yeah.
if you were having like you don't want to pretend like you're having a beer and like start dropping, F-bombs in the interview, but you want to almost have that feel of a conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it'll make you more relatable, make you more likable, and the good part is you're really doing a great job at making connections inside of where you're interviewing people who formerly had those interviews, went through that process. This girl that's now there, so I think you really want to take advantage of this and not come across as overly polished, automaton or however they call it, like a robot.
Yeah.
And I don't think you are. I've seen, trust me, I've seen. What you just performed was much better than the majority of mock interviews I've seen. So don't feel like you're far off. You're a few minor tweaks away from a really polished answer.
Okay, awesome.
So maybe we can try it again at some point. Maybe hopefully next month you're like, I have good news.
Oh, I hope it's coming this week actually, but we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. But don't get discouraged if not. If not,
No.
we'll keep at it. And how else could I help you? I'm glad you brought that up. I'm glad we did that because I think it was useful. Anything else I could help you with?
I don't know. What would you like recommend for me kind of like going forward? What would you do if you were in my shoes right now?
If I was in your shoes right now, I would really make sure that, well, number one, you're doing the right thing. You're talking to that other person. I would make sure that when you're in the interview, you use any opening they give you to talk about their firm, like or the industry or whatever. You say that you spoke with them. And doing that legwork, that's super important. I think learning about their specific markets that they're in, specific deals they've done, I think is important before the interview. So I'd focus heavily on that specific interview because it's coming up in 8 days.
Yeah.
So you have a little bit of time, you have the weekend, really just focus in on them, all about them.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's real estate, man. Your resume screens real estate. So kind of like.
Absolutely. Oh my God. It's yeah. Because I did another interview and it was like, or it was the 1 week where I did like 7 and it was for a real estate firm too. And they'd had like 600 applicants and they'd only interviewed like 15 for a first round. Wow. And then she told me that she's like, yeah, real estate. I'm like, yeah. And I didn't even get a second round too. And she was talking about like the golden retrievers and stuff on my resume and everything. Like I thought I had it in the bag.
Yeah. Well, it's the thing is you got to like always assume that they're judging you. Oftentimes they'll be chummy with you, judging you. So don't assume chummy means you're in. Because if you get too confident or cocky or comfortable, they take that as almost as a sign of like, oh, this kid thinks he has it. Right.
Yeah.
So you got to make sure that you remain super humble throughout the whole thing, even if they're being chummy with you. That's a really important. That's a little trap that a lot of people will set to see if you're like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Even with those odds going from 600 to 15, they're still only they're probably only offering like 3 or 4 internships.
I think it was like 1, so they narrowed down like the 15 to like 6.
Yeah, so that's my point. Like, so it's still your odds are horrible.
Yeah.
So your odds are really bad. So it's not just about like being chummy. It's actually being chummy and good, plus nailing the technicals, plus being super sharp, plus being humble. And so it's like you got to check so many boxes.
Yeah.
So it's like
crazy.
But don't like let that discourage you. You probably did have a really good thing. You could have been like number 20. Or you could have been could have been like number 6 or 7. And they only brought in 6 back, you know?
Yeah.
So it doesn't mean that you didn't do well. It's just, I think, listening to your fit questions, I think you run the risk of coming across as, especially if you're like doing the whole thing, dropping the like my life, dedicate my life, things like that. If you do too much of that, it could come across as like, okay, this kid's just blowing smoke. You know what I mean?
Yeah, makes
So,
sense.
so I think that's, if you tighten that up a little bit and just are a little bit more straight. I think there's in the fit course, in the behavioral course, there is some examples about like banking that applies to like any of these jobs, like real estate finance, real estate private equity, which talks, I think it says in there, like literally a sample answer about working with smart people and da da da. I definitely incorporate that. You know, the fast pace excites you. You think you're going to learn a lot, and just being with a good company that has a great reputation, where you're surrounded by people who are going to kind of teach you a lot, and you'll get actual transaction work. Is exciting.
Okay. Awesome.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's good.
Anything unfair that I said?
No, it's all good to take in. I pretty much need anything I can get at this point.
No,
Just
but
in
it's
terms
good.
of
I think
advice.
just
Yeah.
continue to stay humble and try to be as like real with these people without crossing the line of too informal.
Yeah.
So it's like this weird balancing act of like, you want it to be a conversation, but you don't want to look so comfortable, because then that can come across as disrespectful or overly cocky. But you
Yeah.
still want to like make it like a conversation in the sense of like, you're actually really interested in this stuff and you're very excited about this job, but you're not coming across as like some uber goober robot nerd.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna trademark that, uber goober robot. Anyways, I'll let you run, man. It's I know you're super busy, so definitely I haven't even looked at your updates. I'm gonna go look through that, and if there's anything else that like jumps into my head when I'm looking at those, I'll definitely ping you on Skype, and we can
go from there.
Yeah, we can go from there, and then let me know if you want to just even hop on for 10-15 minutes before. We can try to grab some more time before your interview.
Perfect.
And we don't have to like record it or anything. We'll just get on there and just we can run through the fit questions again if you want.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Sound good? All right, man. Good luck, and yeah, have fun this weekend. Not.
All right. Thanks, man. Take it easy.
Yeah, talk soon. Bye.
Bye-bye.
And thanks to you, my listeners at Wall Street Oasis. If you have any suggestions whatsoever, please don't hesitate to send them my way, patrick@wallstreetoasis.com. And until next time.